Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be dissertating and talking about Stephen Colbert's natal chart, Part 2. The first thing I want to get at in Part 2 is that he has a stellium in Taurus in his 12th house in his solar chart, and perhaps this is why his Taurus energy is somewhat shrouded and concealed, and we don't really see it come out that strongly. It seems to be very suppressed. And also, his sun in Taurus only makes one major aspect in his natal chart according to the solar chart, and that would be to Neptune, and that's still like around 7 degrees. I think it's around 7 degrees, 7.5 degrees from the sun. So that's kind of a little bit of a long orb. It still falls into it still makes an aspect. I believe it's in opposition to Neptune, I should say, but it's not a very tight aspect, and maybe that's why we don't see the Taurus energy come out really that profusely in his personality, and also coupled with the fact I'm sure he has a different ascendant. Now the next thing is he has Mercury conjunct Mars, and then this could sometimes in his satires on his show he may come across as inflammatory, some cutting, scathing remarks, and it could show abundant energy put into communication. Now, he also has Mars conjunct Jupiter. Now, this could indicate strong energy put into religion, philosophy, higher learning, traveling, and politics. Now, this can be fortuitous for sports or some kind of competitive endeavors. I don't know if he was ever athletic or actively involved in any kind of sports, even on a recreational level, but I'm just saying this is what this could indicate. Now, he also has Mercury conjunct Jupiter. Now, this could be the position of the perpetual learner, communicates with much enthusiasm, and enjoys conveying philosophies to others, may be visionary, and at the same time can be blunt and outspoken. Now, his Venus is in the second house, and this could show, in his solar chart, of course, this could show that he's enamored with making money, possessions, acquiring items, and financial stability. There may be good financial acumen, and they may also be a love of money, and may marry somebody that is financially stable as well. Another thing that I've noticed is that he has no planets in fire signs. Now, this could lack some effervescence and exuberance and enthusiasm. It shows he might be less expansive and optimistic than the average person, that he might look at life as somewhat as drudgery or monotonous on some level, and maybe at times, even though we don't see this on his show, that might see life in a negative light at times more than positive. Another thing that I wanted to get at, now bear with me, it's going to take a little time to explain, is that he has, in his solar chart, he has a yod. And a yod is a configuration which consists of two planetary bodies, or this can include the ascendant or midheaven, but not both, making a sextile aspect, and then each of these planets make an inconjunct aspect to what could be, generally most of the time, will be a planet, or it could be the ascendant or midheaven. But keep in mind that the ascendant and midheaven both can be involved in a configuration. In his case, he has it's Venus sextiling Uranus, and both of those planets in conjunct his midheaven. So what this could indicate is that the inconjuncts that are formed between the Venus he has that goes to his midheaven. And first I'll talk about his Uranus in conjuncting the midheaven. This could show that there's some kind of possibly upheavals that are associated with his career or livelihood. And then we look at the Venus in conjunct the midheaven. This could show that perhaps feelings aren't necessarily easily conveyed. Now, what the midheaven, this point, I guess you could kind of look at the finger point of the yod. What could happen with this is that it forces this point into some form of action, and Aquarius midheaven can be about attaining notoriety and being in the public eye to some degree. Now, this is the way perhaps Stephen was able to deal with these possible, I guess we could say, these exasperating aspects from the inconjunct. And basically, in the yod, the point, that apex point or what have you, is that point of release, and it could show that perhaps through finding some kind of career where he's in some kind of public eye, where he shows uniqueness, ingenuity, or some need to be different, perhaps a career where he can kind of dictate his own schedule, perhaps to some degree in somewhat non-conforming. That's a way of releasing, I guess you could say, the tension, or alleviating those negative inconjuncts made by those two planets. Now, on the other side of the coin, the yod isn't always all bad, because in the yod, the planets that form that sextile aspect can be channeled through that, what I describe as the apex position. Now, in his chart, in his solar chart, it's Venus making the sextile to Uranus, and then this could show strong, perhaps good fundamental understanding of social consciousness. Now, this can be projected through the Aquarius midheaven and things that are connected with his notoriety. And even though we might not see the social consciousness part of him on the Colbert show, it may come out, like, say, if he's in some kind of interview, say with like a 60 Minutes, or if he's on 2020 or something, and he could still be getting some kind of notoriety and recognition, and getting his thoughts on this, or this part of him can be expressed outwardly in other avenues in life where he's getting some kind of recognition, or being in the public eye. So, well, people, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something a little oblique, a little unorthodox. I'm going to bring my camera over to the computer, and I'm going to show you two possible natal charts for Stephen Colbert. So just hold on a second while I bring this over there. Okay. See if we can get it focused on his chart. Okay, bear with me. Okay, this is the first possible chart that I'm looking at, and I'm really favoring Virgo rising, and I put it at right almost at 15 degrees exactly, so I'm not off by more than 15 degrees either before or after this position. And Stephen Colbert can come across, I mean, to me, very analytical, intellectual. He's about dialect. He's very talkative, which could be a very Mercury type thing. I see him as mercurial, but a little more of a pragmatic, practical one, as opposed to the Gemini. He strikes me as somebody that can be very meticulous in the way he dresses. He looks like he's very neat, very punctilious with details, organized, systematic, and these qualities I think are almost a dead ringer for Virgo rising. And you look here, Uranus would conjunct the ascendant with this one, make a long conjunction, and that could be connected with how maybe he shows some eccentricities in his show. Let's see, I have 1138, I believe this is Pluto. I'm sorry, I didn't put the P there for Pluto, but this can show where he might have a transforming effect on others, perhaps, with Pluto making the conjunction with his ascendant. The moon in Gemini right here would be in the 10th house of his career, which is maybe why we see, such a strong Gemini influence. That's in conjunction with his career and what we see in his show before the public. We see this manifold personalities and these expressions of feeling, and just this constant loquaciousness that seems to come out from from Stephen Colbert, and I really, I think maybe this is what that's attributed to. We look at the sun in the 9th house, and which could be comparable to the sun in Sagittarius, which could show the jocular side of him, robust sense of humor, which is the Taurus as well, the jovial, we see the philosophical quality here, and making a trine aspect to his ascendant. We see that maybe how the Taurus and the Virgo can work very well together. The Sun and Taurus with the Virgo rising would integrate very well. And you would have a lot of these. Another thing too is this would put 8 planets above the horizon, which would make him a little more extroverted, which would help compensate for lack of extroverted, I could say, masculine planets in his horoscope. Only one, which is the moon in Gemini. Now let's go. I'm going to exit this out. We're going to go to the next one. Now bear with me. It should appear momentarily. We're going to look at his second chart here. It's taken a little while for this page to load, but it should come up. Okay, it's getting there, people. Just bear with me. Let me hit auto enhance. We're going to look at his second chart now. Now this one is the one for 7:20 a.m., which would put his rising sign at Gemini. The moon would be in Gemini in the 1st house, very close proximity to the ascendant, which could be an indicator of the double Gemini influence, which would emphasize the Gemini characteristics very strongly. We would see all these, the Sun in Taurus would be in the 12th house, which could indicate maybe that's why his Taurus energy is so shrouded and concealed, and that we don't see this very hardly see the Taurus energy publicly. It would be 3 planets in Taurus in the 12th, and then there's a 4th one here, Mercury, which would conjunct the 12th house cusp, which is almost essentially like being in the 12th house. And I think for those reasons, you can make a case where his rising sign would be Gemini. So that is another possibility. And also here Mercury would be in the 11th house, and I don't know if he has the strong interest in that, but something strikes me is that he could have a strong interest in human rights, social reform. It would indicate this with Mercury being in the 11th house, and this would be the secondary possibility. However, I am leaning toward the first speculative chart, if you will, the Virgo rising, which I showed you before, which was the one which would be 2:28 p.m. Time of birth. So anyway, well, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for Stephen Colbert's natal chart part 2, and stay tuned next time where I'll be continuing my house rulers series. 2 things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel, and secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis on a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone, because a person astrologically is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.